Hello there, welcome back to Simon's Shed. It's time for another layout update on the Severn Valley Railway, which is my N-gauge version of part of the Severn Valley Railway. So, coming up, road markings, ballasting, and a surprise. So yeah, hope you're all well, hope you're all keeping well in the lockdown. Looks like we're going to start heading out of it hopefully very soon here in the UK. Kids back to school shortly, so yeah, I have to try and keep the progress going on the layout. Did want to say a huge thanks if you bought the If You Need Me I'll Be in the Shed t-shirt. We've had a few sales of those. We're racing towards high single figure sales, so but yeah, if you have bought one, thanks very much, and hope you enjoy it, and hope everyone finds it as funny as people are finding my t-shirts, so that's cool. Yeah, what else? There was supposed to be another building in this update, but it didn't arrive, so I had a look. The three main buildings that are left, we've got the sort of two stations, the Severn Valley and the main line at Kidderminster, and we've got the big GWR goods shed. And I had another look. I thought there must be a kit that I can sort of use rather than having to scratch build the whole thing myself, and I did find this. I'll stick it on the screen now, which looks very similar. The only problem with it is it's not long enough, so I bought two, or I ordered two. I think it's quite a new kit, because I've searched before and I've not seen anything like the massive goods shed at Kidderminster Severn Valley Railway. But yeah, it's just, I guess, either lockdown or it's not released yet or something. I'll have to chase it up. That's not arrived, but never mind. There's plenty of other stuff to get on with. So let's go and have a look over at Comberton Hill and have a look at some road markings. Now, over here back at the Comberton Hill end, just been adding a few little details to the road. So I bought these acrylic paint pens just off Amazon. I bought them for something else. That something else being this classic 1987 Tamiya radio controlled cart, where I'm sort of restoring one to sort of look like the one I had as a kid. And basically these shells you paint, you spray them from the inside, so you obviously mask the windows, and it didn't turn out too great. So what you can do is just run a paint pen along here to hide the mistakes basically. And also I've put some white on the tyre writing, and I thought I know where else I can use those, and I think they'll come in handy for Metcalf kits and stuff, sort of hiding the white card on the edges. Might be useful for that, but for now I've just been using the white and the yellow. And for instance, the Pelican crossing is here, so you can see I've got some dots going across, which is what's there, and you've got these sort of zigzaggy lines, and then the crossing will be there, and then zigzaggy lines there. So that's now very prototypical to how it is on Comberton Hill. And obviously I need to fade this down a bit. Most of it, after I've done it, I've been just rubbing some artist's chalk on it to fade it down a bit because it's quite bright. I've done the sort of parking bay mark here, and I've done the double yellow lines, which were very, very bright, but as I say, I've toned them down a bit, and I think they look okay now. The only thing that was terrible was this. There's like a no waiting, where you've got a yellow box with the hatched lines across, and I tried to tone that down again with the artist's chalks, but it just disappeared. So that's a bit of a result really, because it did look terrible. So I've drawn the box again, and I'm going to have another go at that now. There you go. It's better than it looked last time. Again, I will fade it down, just not quite as much as I did last time, to hide the little mistakes. But it's not, the lines aren't quite the right angle, but at a glance it looks pretty good, I think. So yeah, worth a look. 12 quid I think they were off Amazon, and I'm sure those will come in handy for lots of things. There we go, nicely blended in. Pleased with that. And from sort of 2 feet away, I think the lines look really good. Sure, if you get right up next to them, you can see some little things that need fixing in there. But actually, you know, things like this line and the crossing lines, I'm really pleased with. I didn't think I'd be able to get them to look like that. Right, ballasting. Let's get it finished. The end is in sight. I've done a lot more, so now I can see the end. I'm really keen to give it another push and get that done. And also, there's something different I want to do, that I can only do once the ballasting is finished, which is track weathering. So I haven't cracked out my airbrush and compressor for a long time, so I'm going to get that out of the drawer, dust it off, and see if it still works, and show you how I weather the track with the airbrush and paint. So as usual, I'm using the Woodland Scenics fine ballast in grey, and we've got the trusty watered down PVA and the pipette dropper. Oops, get rid of that. I think it's about 50-50. It's quite, not entirely sure, but it's quite runny because you want it to soak in, and there's a couple of drops of washing up liquid in there as per the textbook. So yeah, let's get it finished. Okay, so that's everywhere ballasted in terms of the first pass, but what I've been doing then is literally just using the handle of an old paintbrush, just sort of moving the bits off the top of the sleepers where I don't want it, just to try and improve that a bit, and obviously going over it with the vacuum, getting the bits up, and using, I bought a new Gauge Master track rubber just to get any stubborn bits of glue off the top of the rails. You have to go over it again with the vacuum when you've done that, because it does leave bits everywhere. I don't really use that to sort of clean the tracks, as you know, but it is useful for sort of getting glue and paint off the rails. Much to my relief, I've put a little bit of ballast on the points, and after a little bit of reluctance they are now moving again. So I didn't put much along the edges there, and very, very little in the bit where the blades move, and drop glue in here and around the edges, but I didn't drop any glue down here. It's barely covered the surface, but that's fine. From here it looks like it's ballasted. I just really don't want to mess up and end up gluing the point blades and breaking the points. So that's turned out okay. Still got a lot of points to ballast and bits to fill in and go over with the scraper, tidy up and improve. But I think it's time to have a break from this. I think I've done enough now that I can show you the next thing. Ta-da! It's airbrush time. You won't have seen this on the channel probably at all, certainly not for many years. So I bought this, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, when I was weathering the track on Boddenham Woods, the previous layout, and sadly it's not really been used since. So I decided to dig it out and see if I can get it going again and do a bit of track weathering. So I'll take you through how this works. The other thing is I bought some enamel thinners because my other tin seems to have completely evaporated, which I suppose is not a surprise since it's been so long. But yeah, you can pick these up. Had a look for about £100 now, and you're getting 2 things really: the compressor, which is its job is just to push air through this tube, and the sort of airbrush gun or brush itself, and you put the paint into there, and this is a 2-action. I'll show you how it works, but essentially there's a pressing down action to send air through, and also a pulling back action to send the paint through, so you can blow air without the paint and then gradually feed it in and out. I'm sure I paid more than £100. I think they've come down a bit, but they look very similar to this. Had a bit of a refresher. What you do is, obviously this is just plugged into the mains. You turn it on and it builds up the pressure. To adjust the pressure, I think you lift this up, you pull this up and then turn it left or right, and I've got mine set to about 30 psi. I did try and do a bit of research and find out what pressure you should be at, but it really depends on what you're doing, basically how much force. Obviously the higher the pressure, the more force going through the end of the gun, the further the paint's going to spray and so on. But about 25-30 is okay for what I'm sure that's what I used last time. So yeah, you can probably hear when I press down, the air squirts out and the compressor kicks in to sort of refill the air pressure back up. So just to try and demystify this a little bit, because I was a bit intimidated when I first got this, but actually I needn't have worried. You know, I had visions of splattering paint over the entire layout, but actually it's really easy to control, and you don't get much overspray. Certainly if you set the pressure to sort of 25-30 psi. So let me show you what you do. So once you've plugged it in and you've connected the air line to the compressor and the airbrush, obviously switch it on. Where's the switch gone? And set your pressure by pulling this up and twisting it. Let's get it back to about 30. Give it a test. It's gone down now. I want it to sort of settle around 25, 30. That'll do. So, what should happen is, it should get up to pressure, the compressor should cut out, and the pressure should stay where it is. So this shouldn't be constantly kicking in. If it does, then you've got a leak somewhere and you need to check the connections and the airline and so on, but that seems pretty good. So now what I'm going to do, I've just got some old cardboard. I'm literally, where you would put the paint in, I'm going to put some water in there and just give you a quick demo. All you do is push down, and as you can hear, the air comes out, but no paint, or water in this case, will come out until you pull back on the lever. And I've actually limited the distance that will pull back by screwing this in, so you can actually make it a bit more foolproof, so that even if you yank this right back, it won't splatter everything with paint. If we press down and then pull back, you can see that with a little bit of practice, it's actually really quite a small area that it sprays, and it's really easy to control. So if you do get one of these, I recommend just sticking some water in first and just having a play with it. You're not going to do any damage that way, and you get used to how it works. So after a bit of research, I decided on 3 sort of levels of weathering. On the main line, we've got a light weathering, so probably just some grey. On the Severn Valley line, we'll have a sort of medium weathering. And in the stations, the Severn Valley stations, we'll go for a heavy weathering, just because that's what appears to be there in real life. It does seem to be very dark. Obviously all the coal dust and so on from the steam trains at the station. So, paint. I've dug out my rail match paints from last time. These are enamel paints, so enamel thinners. This was the paint that came up, thinners that came up when I searched for the best type of thinners for rail match paints. So make sure you get the right type of thinners. We got black, we've got 403, which is roof dirt, I think, and 405, which is dark rust. So dark rust, roof dirt and black. And thankfully they are still liquid inside there. I've given them a good stir, and what we want to do now is get some in the gun with a fair amount of thinners. I'll try and give you an idea of how much paint to thinners I've used, but you want it really kind of runny, otherwise your airbrush will clog up. So I think I'm probably going to start here on the station with the heavy weathering, and that's probably going to be a sort of medium coat of roof dirt, a coat of rust, then roof dirt, and then black, all fairly heavy. I think the light weathering's just going to be maybe a tiny bit of that and a coat of that, and then the medium will be that and a tiny bit of black maybe. So we'll see how, we'll judge it how it looks as we go, but yeah, let's give it a try. Right, shed door is open and the fan is going on in a sec, just to keep the fumes down, because the thinners is not nice. So I've got this old bottle cap. I half filled that with thinners and then literally dipped the end of that paintbrush in the paint, and that was all the paint I used. So it is really runny, and we'll just give it a quick test. So you can see there, it's really not applying much, but if I go for a heavier, let's do it here because of the shadow. So that's a sort of light coat, and then a heavier coat. There we go. Right, let's be brave and spray some track. Quick comparison then, unweathered and weathered. So that's the heavy weathering. Quite pleased with how that's turned out. Do need a bit more practice with the old airbrush to get things a bit more even, although saying that, the heavy weathering doesn't need to be completely even, because there will be patches of darker ballast. So yeah, it's good to do something a bit different and start weathering the track. So I hope you enjoyed that update, and thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.
Perfect.